Last year, my best friend and I had the privilege of playing in a one-shot, run by none other than Mike Merles, the lead designer for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. We crawled through the dungeon, we made some risky plays, we learned how to play Shadow Dark, and overall, we had a great time with strangers that we had never met before. After reflecting on our experience playing in Mike's game and my years running one-shots, I thought I would try to, distill down my learnings into the internet's absolutely favorite format, a numbered list. Hi, I'm Pat, and this is my cat. I give practical advice for TTRPGs on how to simplify your game and how to gamify the simple within your game. I make videos every Thursday. If that sounds good to you, click that like button, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell so you don't miss hot, fresh content every Thursday. Okay, on to the video. Before we dive all the way in, it's important to get on the same page about what we're talking about. Let's define what a one-shot is. One-shots are adventures meant to be run in one session. They're usually about 4 hours long. Some people say that they are self-contained. They may or may not be. Some players, myself included, often use one-shots to see if I want to start a longer campaign. Link to the video on how to do that up here, somewhere up here. Now, why should you even want to run a one-shot? Well, one-shots are good for several reasons. One, they can be a low-commitment way to try out a new system or to feel out the vibe of a new gaming group. They're a good way to introduce the RPG hobby or a new system to an inexperienced group, but maybe you have a busy schedule and don't want to start another campaign. Maybe you're playing at a con, like I was when we played in Mike's games. Shout out to Gamehole Con. I'll be back next year. That was really fun. The fourth reason you might want to run a one-shot is maybe you're a great player and you want to give your forever DM a break. My players are doing that for me right now, and I love them. Aww. So why are we talking about this? Well, one-shots have a different feel at the table than longer form games. In a way, they're almost like different mediums in the way that movies and short films are. They're good at doing different things, so we as GMs should treat them differently. How do I mean that? Well, one-shots are limited in scope. The characters and the consequences of their actions only matter for those 4 hours. Players during a one-shot should feel pressured, therefore, to get things done quickly. And that may mean that they may try riskier things. They may try to just open the door instead of in a longer campaign. They might take some time to figure out if it's trapped or not. The last thing that happens is because that they know that they have to do this thing tonight, they may feel a decreased sense of agency in the game. So those are all ways that players may behave differently. And because they behave differently, we as GMs should prepare and run the one-shot differently. One-shots also frequently run out of time, and we're going to touch on that today as well. If you're looking for a video that has all the answers, this really ain't it. And if you have the video that has all the answers, please link that down. This video is more of just how to run a good one-shot, what I've discovered so far, and my tips to improve your one-shots. Okay, it's time. It's time to get to that numbered list. Tip number 1. Choose or create an adventure that is designed to be a one-shot. I cannot stress this enough. Some of my worst one-shots that I've ever run has simply just been because I wasn't picking the right adventure. I was trying to run an entire mega dungeon in one night, and it just didn't work because there was no narrative resolution to the adventure. To assess whether or not something should be run as a one-shot or is appropriate to run as a one-shot, think about how long each scene will take. To do this, think about your table. Do they take a long time deciding whether to go left or right, talking to NPCs, deciding what move to do in combat? And then juxtapose those behaviors against the system. Where is the crunch there? In D&D 5e, most of the mechanics are in combat, so that would take a long time. The one-shot might be the first time that you're running this system, or the first time that your group is playing in this system, or both. And in that case, I recommend choosing a one-shot that has timers listed for you in each scene, like this one from the D&D Adventurers League. And in fact, I recommend putting these timers in place for any one-shot adventure, even if you are experienced. Along with each timer, I would write down what is key to the success of that adventure that occurs in that scene. If nothing is key, write that down too. It's important because that will help us identify, spoiler alert, in a later tip, how to move things around when we are struggling for time at the table. The last thing that you need to look for when evaluating about whether or not the adventure that you're considering is appropriate to run as a one-shot is the content of the adventure going to be specific to the different ways that players approach one-shots, i.e. those things we talked about before, more risk-taking, more action-oriented players with maybe a decreased sense of agency? Does the adventure provide a clear sense of direction? Providing a clear objective prevents wasting time due to indecision. Without go-getting players will be like, I thought we were here to adventure. Where's the adventure at? One-shot adventures also need lots of interactive elements in the adventure, as does any adventure, but the way that they're ordered in one-shots should be more specific. We want interactive elements at the beginning and the middle of the adventure to affect the end of the adventure, such as them costing or granting valuable resources, opening up or shutting down pathways that were previously inaccessible to your party, or at least having the potential to do so. Interactive elements at the end of the adventure can be wild, with huge narrative consequences, like a decision, should we blow up the moon with an atomic missile, or maybe a free wish spell from a genie. But wrap up at least the objective that the players are concerned with, the point of them going on the adventure in the first place. That is how you should evaluate the appropriateness of an adventure. If you're looking for a one-shot, there are many excellent one-shots available online for a variety of systems. And it may seem obvious, although it definitely wasn't to me when I first started running adventures, to run an adventure that is designed to be a one-shot. The numbered list continues. Tip number 2, pre-generate characters. I understand the instinct to ask players to create their own characters for a one-shot, because creating a character causes the player to invest in the character, and you want that for your players because they then invest in your adventure. I remember running a one-shot, and we spent the first 2 hours of the session making characters. And as a result, the adventure went really late, and one player, my friend Garrett, fell asleep at the table with his head down. I think asking players to make characters on their own before the session as homework kind of thing, it can work, but you have to have players who know what they're doing in the system. Otherwise, it can be very difficult for them, and the character sheet may have some substantial errors. The players should also want to make a character. Otherwise, this is going to feel like homework and may turn them off of your game. However, if your players don't fit that criteria of being really adept with the system, use pre-generated characters. If you want to facilitate some investment by giving them some basic choices, here's how you can do that. You can have more pre-gens available than you have players. Twice the number of pre-gens as players is a good number, and that way players can have a choice about who they'll embody for the rest of the session. And another way that you can do this to give them some kind of investment with a pre-generated character is to ask them what kind of guy they want to be. And then you can make that character for them. This is my preferred method because it eliminates time choosing a character at the session that sometimes comes with making pre-gens. It also creates more investment than choosing a wholly baked character. And then it also has the hidden benefit of forcing you to learn the system by making a character if the system is new to you, and it also forces you to understand what the characters can do during the adventure so that you're more prepared for the shenanigans as they crop up. Tip number 3 is just to manage your time at the table. Mike Shea of Sly Flourish. Mike Shea of Sly Flourish on his Lazy DM podcast has complained a few times of playing in one-shots and not being able to get to the end. I've had that experience too before, and it ended up feeling unsatisfying for me. I walked away thinking, like, why did I spend so much time doing this? And despite all that we do during prep, the time can get away from us at the table. And we as GMs need to be ready to adapt on the fly so that we can get it done on one session. That said, here are some tips to help you manage your time at the table. You should start in media res. Don't just put the players at the mouth of the dungeon. Put them in the middle of the very first encounter. Wolves are coming. What do you do? Putting them in the action right away eliminates a session that can be boring or awkward, like meeting in a tavern, or needlessly bureaucratic, like accepting the call to adventure from a quest giver. Tip number 2 of managing your time is to set timers and figure out ways to move things along. If you followed prep tip number 1, because you are a very good student, you set timers for each scene during the adventure. Now set a real timer on your phone during the game based on what you budgeted during your prep phase. If that timer goes off before the party has resolved the scene, make something happen. You can have the important thing that you identified in the scene come to them. Maybe the eyewitness finds them instead of them having to find the eyewitness. Maybe the slime has 30 less hit points than what you had written down and will just die on the next hit. You could also have the important thing in the next scene come to them. So an example for this could be like, while looking for the eyewitness, they get attacked by a slime. Or behind the slime is a cowering figure who matches the description you were given of the eyewitness. The last thing you can do is to just cut stuff entirely that you had marked as having nothing key to the success of the adventure. Just cut it out. If there's a fight in the middle of the adventure that doesn't really offer anything, like this fight with the slime, then just snip it. Another thing you can do to manage your time at the table is to just fast forward things. Just say something like, the enemies surrender in exchange for the following pieces of information. This is a little bit less of a subtle way to do things, and I much more prefer to do the first way of having the next thing kind of come to them. But in a pinch, this can definitely work. Another thing that can help move time along is to just say yes more often than you would in a new campaign. And this is something that is a general tip for running games like overall, no matter one-shot or long-form campaign. But I saw Mike Merles do this in the one-shot that we played in, and it made me think about how saying yes is efficient use of time. It is moving the scene forward. It gives the players agency, and it lets their riskier things pay off. Whereas saying no uses up time. When you say no, the players are going to try to figure out a different avenue around things, and that takes time and ideation for them to come up with solutions for ideas, and it's just less time efficient. Furthermore, saying yes, even to ridiculous things, is just more fun. And because it's a one-shot, you're unlikely to have the same long-term consequences of saying yes to something ridiculous that you might have in a longer-form campaign. That doesn't mean that players get to just automatically win. Saying yes and or yes but helps to keep the situation challenging and narratively tense while still driving the story forward. If you have to say no, try no but for the same reason. There are lots of good videos, blogs, books on these improv techniques, yes and, no but, blah blah. And I don't think I have a lot to add to them right now, aside from how they can help push the narrative forward, which is crucial in a time-sensitive session like a one-shot. Lastly, if all else fails, just say, hey guys, for the sake of time, I'm just gonna skip this part. Your players will forgive you. It's gonna be fine, because all they want to do is just get to a satisfying narrative conclusion, and often the boring middle parts just don't matter as much. Anyway, all of these techniques can help you manage your time at the table. That's it. That's the video. One-shots only last one session, so players play the game differently than if it was a longer form campaign. And therefore, we as DMs should prepare and run the adventure in line with those differences, to lean into them. I don't think that I've really cracked the code on that, but some things that I do that help are I choose or create an adventure that is designed to be a one-shot, I use pre-generated characters, and I manage my time at the table by skipping the boring bits and moving around the necessary elements of adventure when I'm pressed for time. What experiences do you guys have in your time playing and running games for your friends? Put those experiences in the comments below. And until next Thursday, roll those dice like they owe you some money. Bye.